Billionaire's assistant stumbles upon heart-wrenching scene at 3 a.m. The insane truth revealed, the clock struck 3, each chime echoing like thunder through the hollow halls of the opulent mansion. The moonlight poured through stained glass, casting eerie shadows that twisted and danced across the expensive rugs. It was a night like any other until it wasn't. Tessa, the loyal assistant to the reclusive billionaire Victor Harlow, found herself breathless, sensing something was painfully off. As she crept through the darkened corridors, her heart raced, each step echoing her growing unease. The air crackled with tension, an electric anticipation prickling her skin. Suddenly, she halted, drawn to a faint sound, a muffled sob reverberating from Victor's private study. It felt out of place. She glanced around. The walls seemed to breathe with secrets, the kind that could squeeze the air from your lungs. Who would dare weep in the stronghold of affluence? Her breath caught in her throat as she pushed the heavy door open, barely letting a sliver of light spill into the darkness. There he was, the enigmatic man everyone revered yet feared. His face, usually stern and composed, was twisted in despair. What met her eyes was haunting. Victor, a titan in the business world, knelt on the ground, crumpled letters scattered around him like fallen leaves in autumn. Each letter bore an unmistakable mark of desperation, the ink running, blurry with tears. Tessa's chest constricted. The billionaire wasn't just battling numbers and deals but was entangled in something far vaster and dark. For a heartbeat, she considered retreat. Was it her place to intrude on such vulnerability? But curiosity gripped her, and eyes wide, she stepped further into the room. As she caught glimpses of those letters, the names jumped out, each one tied to loss: a brother gone too soon, lost love, unforgiving regrets. The room spun. Tessa felt a lump in her throat, the world around her fading away until there was just this moment, heavy with emotion. She couldn't look away. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Victor's eyes caught hers, and the weight of his sorrow shot straight through her heart. He looked lost, vulnerable, like a puzzle missing the most crucial piece. Tessa felt her resolve hardening. She couldn't just stand by. Victor, she whispered, voice barely above a breath. What is going on? His gaze dropped back to the letters, and for a moment, silence stretched thick between them, palpable as a storm. The question hung in the air, begging for an answer. What truth was hidden beneath those letters? And why was Victor Harlow the man who had everything so utterly broken? In that charged moment, everything changed, and Tessa knew she was about to unravel a reality she never imagined. What secrets lay ahead? What choices awaited her in this twisted tale? The air was thick with unspoken words, and Tessa willed herself to remain steady under Victor's haunted gaze. I need to know what's hurting you, she urged, her voice gaining strength as she stepped closer. Victor was still, like a statue carved from sorrow. He picked up a letter, crumpling it unconsciously in his palm. You wouldn't understand, he finally muttered, his voice hoarse and ragged. Try me, Tessa insisted. She felt a surge of frustration but also a strange kinship with his pain. How could someone so powerful feel so utterly defeated? He shook his head, gripping the letter tighter, as if fearing it would slip away and take his secret with it. It's not just regret. It's loss. I lost people. You think money can shield you from that? It can't. The confession hung in the air, heavy with weight. Tessa felt her heart race. Victor, losing people, the grief, it's part of being human. You have to let yourself feel it. He glanced up, his expression a mix of anger and vulnerability. You don't get it. They relied on me. I let them down so when they left I didn't just lose them. I lost every part of myself that mattered. The vulnerability in his voice sliced through her, leaving her breathless. Each jagged edge he revealed made him seem less like the untouchable mogul everyone whispered about and more like a wounded man too burdened to acknowledge his own humanity. Tessa felt the weight of the room's silence press down on her. "I can help you, Victor," she whispered, taking another step forward. She was surprised by her own boldness. "You don't have to bear this alone." For a moment, she saw a flicker of something hope, perhaps dancing in his eyes. But it vanished quickly, replaced by a storm of conflict and inner turmoil. "What do you think you know about loss? About blame? You'll never understand," he snapped, standing abruptly, knocking a few letters to the floor. Tessa felt the sharp sting of his words, they struck her like a slap. But she didn't retreat. "Maybe I don't know your pain. But I'd wager I know what it means to carry the weight of guilt. We all have our demons, Victor. You can't bury them under wealth and influence." His expression softened for just a heartbeat, and in that instant, Tessa seized the opportunity. "What if I help you sort through these letters? Maybe it's time to confront those memories instead of hiding from them." He kneeled back down, the storm within revealing cracks as he peered into her eyes, searching for sincerity. "You'd help me?" he questioned, voice trembling now. "Yes," she declared, her heart racing in her chest, "but only if you promise to be honest with yourself." Victor hesitated, uncertainty painting his features. It was a glimmering chance, but darkness loomed in the corners of the room. Would he grasp it, or would he push her away? Before he could answer, a sudden crash echoed from the hallway, a sound so jarring it sent both of them into alert. They froze, the atmosphere snapping back into the tense silence as adrenaline surged through their veins. Tessa's instincts kicked in. Something was wrong. "Victor, did you hear that?" He nodded, his gaze darting to the heavy wooden door. There was a palpable shift, the kind that ignites primal fear. "Stay here," he commanded, rising to his feet, every muscle tense. Tessa watched in terror as he approached the door, a storm brewing once more in his stormy gaze. "Victor, wait," she started, but he threw the door open without hesitation. What awaited them outside the sanctity of that room would change everything. A shadow loomed just beyond the door, silhouetted in the silvery light. The moment hung in the air, heavy with looming dread. What would they discover together? Who lurked in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike? Victor's heart raced, every instinct screaming. He flung the door wide, adrenaline coursing through his veins like fire. Tessa stood a step behind, her breath caught, eyes wide with fear. In the dim light, the shadow shifted, revealing a familiar figure. It was a woman drenched in darkness, her face obscured, but Victor's face twisted in shock. "Elena," he breathed, disbelief lacing his voice. The figure halted, her breath quickening in the cold air. "Victor," her voice was a whisper, fragile like shattered glass. "I didn't think I would ever see you again." Tessa's mind raced, weighing the tension in the room. This was not just a ghost from Victor's past, it was someone from a life he had thought was buried. As she observed Elena, she felt the chill of old wounds reopening, tearing through Victor's fragile facade. "Why are you here?" Victor's voice cracked, a mixture of anger and heartbreak palpable in the air. It was evident this woman carried with her not just a memory but a tempest of unhealed pain. "I came to warn you," Elena pressed, stepping closer, need seeping from her every word. "You're in danger. They're coming for you." "What do you mean?" he barked, disbelief washing over him. His fingers curled into fists, the letter he had just held forgotten. Tessa exchanged a glance with him, the weight of the unknown hanging heavily between them. "They know about your past, Victor. All those decisions you regret, the people you lost, they're not just gone. They have friends. They want retribution." Her voice trembled, and her eyes flashed with urgency. "What friends?" he demanded, a raw edge to his tone. The more Elena spoke, the more the shadows darkened behind him. Tessa felt a chill creeping down her spine, her mind racing with questions. Who were these people? And how did they know so much about Victor? The ones you betrayed. They will stop at nothing to make you pay for everything. A single tear rolled down her cheek, a potent reminder of the depths of despair and rage. Enough of this. Victor snapped, taking a step forward, his anger erupting like a volcano. You think you can just waltz back in after years and spew threats? You don't know me anymore. But Elena's gaze was unwavering. And you don't know what kind of monsters you're messing with. Tessa's heart thudded in her chest. Victor swung back to her, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. She could see the battle waging within him, the part that wanted to push Elena away and the part that needed to understand why she was here. I need to think, he muttered, raking a hand through his hair, frustration etched on his face. You don't have time. Elena urged, desperation spilling over into panic. They won't give you a chance to consider anything. We need to leave now. I'm not running, he replied firmly, but the quiver in his resolve betrayed him. Tessa took a brave step closer to Elena, catching the desperate woman's gaze. What do you know? Who are they? Elena hesitated, tension crackling in the air. They're connected to everything, the letters, the losses. They want to finish what was started. Victor whipped around to Tessa, anguish and anger battling for dominance. You don't understand. This is my mess. You should get out of here. No. Tessa interrupted, stunned by the firmness in her own voice. This is about you, Victor. It's about confronting your past. I'm not leaving. The shadows crept closer, thickening as the threats deepened. The air itself felt heavy with impending doom. Victor faced the two women, the weight of his choices palpable. Do you trust me? He asked Elena, his voice barely above a whisper. She nodded, fear and loyalty swirling in her eyes. What about me? Tessa pressed, heart pounding. Victor closed his eyes for a brief moment, bracing himself against an invisible force. I don't know, Tessa. But I'm about to find out, and you might not like what we discover. The door creaked eerily, shadows swirling like smoke. Just then, a loud crash echoed from further down the hallway, a bone-rattling reminder that whatever was coming for Victor was already close. Could they confront the darkness of the forgotten past together, or would they all become victims of its deadly embrace? The clock was ticking, and time was running out. Victor's breath hitched as the echo of the crash reverberated down the dimly lit hallway. The very walls felt like they were closing in, pressing against him with every heartbeat. Tessa's eyes darted, searching for answers, but all she felt was the prickling chill of dread creeping down her spine. What haunted Victor wasn't just haunting him anymore, it was dangerously close. Did you hear that? She whispered, her voice strained. Victor turned, his expression a mix of defiance and fear. We can't stay here. If they've already found us, we need to go. Elena's face paled, the gravity of the situation settling over them like a storm cloud. I can't, there's too much at stake. We need to confront this before it spirals out of control. Victor glanced back at her, anger flickering in his eyes. Confronting what? Your vague warnings. I can't fight shadows, Elena. But her piercing gaze remained steady, her resolve unwavering. These aren't shadows, they're very real, and they will come for you if they haven't already. Her words struck a chord deep within him. The memories surged, faces, names, regrets long buried. The past clawed its way back, demanding to be acknowledged. Suddenly, the darkness at the end of the hallway flickered like a dying flame. Figures emerged within the shadows, looming, each step deliberate and heavy. Tessa gasped, her heart racing as she instinctively moved closer to Victor. Who are they? She breathed, barely above a whisper. Victor drew a shaky breath, his earlier bravado slipping away like sand through his fingers. The ones I wronged, the ones I thought I could escape. Elena stepped between them and the encroaching figures, her voice fierce but tremulous. Stay back. You don't understand what you're getting into. But the darkness laughed low and grating, echoing off the walls. One figure stepped closer, a man clad in a leather jacket, his face half obscured by a hood. How noble of you to protect him, Elena. But some debts can't be ignored. Victor's pulse quickened. Get away from her, Damon. You don't want to do this. The man smirked a predatory grin that sent chills spiraling through Tessa. Oh, but I'm here to collect what's due. You know how it feels to have things taken away from you, don't you, Victor? Rage unfurled within Victor, igniting the fight buried deep inside him. You think you can intimidate me? I won't let you do this. Then you'll only suffer more, Damon sneered, and Tessa felt the icy grip of fear constricting around her heart. Victor's fists clenched, a potent mixture of fury and desperation surging through him. He had to protect Tessa, had to keep Elena safe. But as the figures drew closer, he felt the edges of his courage fraying under the weight of the looming threat. In a rapid shift, the shadows lunged forward, and Tessa felt Victor pull her behind him, the thunderous heartbeat of impending pain reverberating through the air. Run! He shouted, urgency spilling from his throat as they broke into action. Tessa's legs moved instinctively, fueled by the adrenaline coursing through her veins. They sprinted down the hallway, but the dark figures pursued like malevolent spirits. Victor led them through a door at the far end, slamming it shut behind them. The room was dim, filled with the musty scent of old wood and silence that felt suffocating. They pressed their ears against the door, just as frantic knocking began to echo. Did we lose them? Tessa's voice trembled, fear clawing at her throat. Victor shook his head ominously. They're relentless, this isn't over. Not even close. Elena's face was pale, realization dawning in her eyes. They know us too well. They're not just looking for Victor. They want all of us. Panic surged, and Tessa's heart sank as she grasped what was at stake. What do we do now? We can't stay trapped in here. Victor took a step back, a fierce light igniting in his eyes. We'll face them together. Whatever it takes. But as he spoke, the door rattled ominously again, and a voice cut through the murmur of chaos. You can't hide for long, Victor. The reckoning is coming. Tessa's breath caught, the words wrapping around her heart like a vice. What had Victor done to summon such wrath? In that moment, confusion, fear, and determination all collided. They were in deep, and as the shadows pushed against the door, Tessa knew the only way out was through. But the question loomed larger than ever, would they emerge unscathed, or would the darkness consume them all? The pounding on the door intensified, echoing like a heartbeat of dread. Victor's chest heaved with anxiety, each thud reverberating in his mind, drowning out reason. Tessa's face was pale as she shot him frantic glances, her eyes reflecting every ounce of terror and disbelief. Victor, think. Elena's voice cut through the chaos, a lifeline in the fray. If they find us, we won't just lose our lives, we'll lose everything we care about. Then we need to get out of here, Victor said, his voice stealing with newfound resolve. We can't just wait for them to break down the door. He turned toward the dim room, scanning for any signs of a way out. Shadows played tricks on the walls, whispering secrets he was desperate to ignore. Tessa's nervous breaths filled the silence as she backed away slightly, bumping against an old, dusty desk cluttered with forgotten objects. What about the windows? She suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. Too small, Victor replied, shaking his head. The only window glistened with grime, dusty enough to mask their escape. The rattling door jolted them again as the men outside intensified their efforts, lethargic laughter seeping through the cracks. You can run, but you can't hide, the sinister voice dragged out each word, sending ice spiraling down Tessa's spine. "We have to move," Victor shouted, heart racing. "Now!" Feeling the urgency, he surveyed the room one last time. In the far corner, he noticed an ancient bookcase leaning slightly, as if one push could send it crashing down. Could it create a barricade? "Help me," he urged Elena and Tessa. They rushed to the bookcase, straining against the weight, anxiety clawing at them as the door splintered under the relentless assault. It shifted just enough to reveal a cramped space behind it, an old, hidden door that beckoned. "There." Victor pointed, heart pounding with fleeting hope. Quickly. With one last immense shove, they freed the bookcase, revealing the door. It was locked, rusted shut, but desperation gave Victor strength. He slammed his shoulder against it, pain radiating through his body, but the door finally yielded. It swung open with a creak that echoed like a cry of warning. Inside, darkness reigned, and Tessa hesitated at the threshold, the fear swirling around her like a thick fog. What if it's a trap? There's too much at stake. Elena snapped, grabbing Tessa's arm. "If we stay in here, we're dead anyway." Victor felt the pull of urgency again. "In or out, Tessa? We can't keep waiting." Gritting her teeth, she stepped forward into the shadowy abyss, the door slamming shut behind them with a finality that sent a shiver down their spines. They stumbled forward, deeper into the suffocating darkness. A flickering dim light somewhere far ahead danced like a beacon. The air was heavy, clinging to their skin, filled with the scent of damp earth and rust. Heartbeats resonated loudly in the silence, merging with the distant pounding that now felt like a heartbeat of an unseen monster. "Where are we even going?" Tessa whispered, breathless. "Somewhere safe," Victor vowed, though uncertainty gnawed at him like a ravenous beast. But before he could take another step, the light flickered out, plunging them into complete darkness. Their breaths quickened, the stillness becoming palpable, and then they heard it, footsteps. Calm. Measured. Approaching through the darkness. "Victor?" Elena breathed, her voice trembling, a hint of terror in her tone. "Stay close," he instructed, but dread wrapped around his heart. His pulse raced as the footsteps got closer, the presence of something or someone unfamiliar pushing forward. Should they hide? Fight? But then came that chilling voice again, echoing through the void like a haunting specter. "You thought you could escape?" Victor felt the floor shift beneath his feet, tension building to a breaking point. There was nowhere to run. The reckoning was upon them. "What have you done?" The voice taunted, sending cold shivers racing down Victor's spine, igniting his deepest fears. As the dark shape materialized before them, its identity. Cloaked in secrecy, Victor realized this was only the beginning. The truth behind the shadows and the debts he owed was about to be unraveled in a way he never imagined. And just like that, he understood, survival was no longer a matter of fleeing. It was time to face the consequences. Trapped in the unseen grasp of darkness, one thing became clear: every secret in the shadows holds a cost. Victor braced himself, ready to confront whatever awaited them, but what lay waiting in the darkness could bring salvation or a far worse fate. The silence was suffocating, each heartbeat a loud reminder of their vulnerability. Victor squinted, struggling to discern the shape advancing toward them. As it drew closer, the darkness dissipated slightly, revealing a tall figure clad in charcoal gray, its face obscured by shadows. But it was the smirk curling at the corners of its mouth that sent a chill racing down Victor's spine. "Surprise." The figure crooned, voice smooth, as if savoring the fear it caused. "You're all trapped here now. There's really no way out." Tessa gasped, her hand instinctively clutching Victor's arm, fingers trembling. "Who are you?" she demanded, voice shaking. "Who I am is less important than what I represent," the figure replied, taking another step forward. "You were curious, but curiosity always comes with a price, doesn't it?" Victor's mind raced. Are you the one behind this? Who sent those men? The figure laughed, a sound that echoed against the stone walls, reverberating like a sinister melody. Those men are just a distraction. The real game is between us. You. The figure pointed, as if stabbing Victor directly in the chest with an accusing finger. You opened a door that should have remained shut. Victor's breath quickened. What door? What are you talking about? Oh, don't play innocent, the figure hissed. You know exactly the kind of secrets your family buried. It's time to pay for the sins of your ancestors. Confusion washed over Victor, merging perfectly with the desperation lurking in his chest. You can't pin that on me too late. The figure leaned in closer, and for the first time, Victor glimpsed eyes sharp as knives, full of malice and hidden truths. It seemed to drink in Victor's fear like a fine wine. Out of the corners of his mind, Victor remembered a long-buried story his mother had once told him, a family feud tangled in debts, darkness, and dangers he had been shielded from. But the depths of it had slipped from his grasp, too trivial to dwell on, too far removed from his perfect world. Stop! Elena shouted, cutting through the tension as she took a bold, defiant step forward. You don't know anything about us. We're not afraid of you. The figure chuckled darkly, almost amused. Ah, brave soul. It flicked a wrist, and the shadows seemed to twitch at its command. But bravery often precedes tragedy. Choose wisely, or the darkness will have you too. Victor's heart raced. He felt trapped in a twisted game of predator and prey. What do you want from us? Simple. The figure's tone turned ominous. Revelations come with consequences. Sacrifice something dear to you, and I might let you go. Or stick to the shadows, let them consume you. What will it be? Panic surged in Victor. Tessa looked at him, her eyes wide. He saw her tremble, he felt an unseen thread tighten around his throat. Don't listen to this monster. He shouted, taking a step back. We're not giving you anything. Then despair waits around the corner, the figure snapped, and as if summoned by its words, the shadows seemed to writhe with dark energy. You have until midnight to decide, or face the consequences. The atmosphere grew heavier, thick with unspoken dread. The figure melted back into the darkness, leaving behind nothing but whispered threats and an air of foreboding. Victor felt the fabric of his world begin to unravel. What does it mean, consequences? Elena? Tessa whispered, uncertainty curling at the edges of her voice. What do we do? Survive, Elena replied, her voice steely despite the terror glistening in her eyes. But we need a plan. We need answers. With every passing moment, despair seeped deeper into Victor's bones. The clock was ticking, but all he could think of was the ghostly figure's warning, sacrifice or shadows. Time to draw a line in the sand, Victor murmured, determination igniting a spark deep within. But as they moved further into the unknown, he couldn't shake the question echoing in his mind. What would he choose to sacrifice to save the ones he loved? And with that, he realized they were in a race against not just time but their own deepest fears. Before the next tick of the clock, they needed to unravel the truth, or risk losing everything. The air was thick as they moved deeper into the labyrinthine passageways, each step a silent prayer for clarity. Shadows twisted in the corners of their vision, whispering secrets that scraped at Victor's resolve. His heart thudded in rhythm with the ticking clock, and every echo grew louder, an ominous reminder that time was not on their side. What if we just sneak out? Tessa proposed, her voice a mere flutter against the stone walls. We could find a window, maybe no. Elena snapped, her eyes fierce with urgency. That figure already warned us. Running won't fix this. We need to face whatever's coming, but we need strategy first. We can't make it worse. Victor clenched his fists, sweat beading on his brow. Tessa's idea sounded so simple, but could they really just slip past unseen? The shadows had come alive, watching them, carrying with them a sinister promise of pain. "We need to figure out what that monster meant by sacrifice," Victor said, his voice trembling slightly. "And why it's connected to my family." Elena nodded, her expression grave. "Your family has secrets, dark ones. We need to explore those. Look for anything that might give us clues." The trio pressed on, their footsteps muted against the cold stone. Victor felt the walls close in on him, suffocating him with ancient history. Every dark corner felt like a probe, revealing unveiled truths he wasn't prepared to confront. Suddenly, Elena's hurried steps halted. "Here," she said, pointing to a slightly ajar door. Scrapes at the edges suggested it hadn't been opened in ages. Tension danced in the air as they exchanged uncertain glances. "What do you think is in there?" Tessa whispered, her voice strained. "Answers," Victor replied, swallowing hard against the knot in his throat. He stepped forward, pushing the door open just enough to squeeze through. The room beyond was smaller, cluttered with dust-covered furniture and cobwebs draping like shrouds over forgotten memories. In the corner, an old trunk sat alone, locks rusted with age. Victor felt a magnetic pull toward it, anxiety and anticipation swirling within. "This has to be it," he murmured, making his way closer. As he knelt and fumbled with the latch, his hand trembled. He could sense Tessa and Elena hovering nearby, breaths shallow with dread. The latch finally clicked open, and Victor lifted the lid with a creak that echoed like a funeral dirge through the dead air. What he saw took his breath away: letters, old photographs, artifacts long forgotten, each piece a fragment of a story that had evaded him all his life. His fingers brushed across a yellowed paper, a letter addressed to his family, laden with accusation. The words were like daggers, piercing through the veil of time. "You're ignoring the debts owed. The darkness grows, and you must atone," it read, the ink still bold, as if daring him to read on. "What does it say?" Tessa asked, peeking over Victor's shoulder. "It's about our family's past," he whispered, piecing together fragments about betrayals, promises broken in darkness. Panic surged. It wasn't just repercussions, these were threats rooted in their family's actions long before they ever existed. Suddenly, a cold draft swept through the room, fluttering the pages and making alarms ring in Victor's ears. Something was wrong. "We have to go. Now!" he shouted, adrenaline kicking in. Before they could react, an ear-splitting crack echoed through the building. One of the old stone walls shifted ominously, barely hanging on to place a warning, or worse, an invitation for the shadows to close in. They turned to run just as the dark figure emerged from the depths beyond the door, its eyes gleaming with eager anticipation. "Time is running out, Victor," it sang, voice smooth and taunting. "Have you found what you need?" Victor's world slipped deeper into chaos. The confrontation was no longer just about survival. It was about facing the roots of their family's darkness and just how far it was willing to stretch to reclaim its due. "Fight! We have to fight!" Elena screamed, but Victor felt a different fear wash over him. The stakes were piled high, and now he carried not just his life, but the weight of his family's past, a burden he was far from prepared to confront. What would they do when the shadows finally revealed their true nature? A choice lay ahead, monstrous and defining. And as the seconds ticked down, the figure smirked, ready to usher in chaos. The consequences were about to unfold. The figure loomed larger as the darkness coiled around it almost protectively, a living shroud of malice. Victor felt an icy grip on his heart, choking back his breaths. Tessa's hand found his, trembling like a fragile bird. Elena stood her ground, jaw set and fierce. "Do you even know what you're looking for?" the figure teased, its voice a haunting melody echoing off the ancient stones. Victor's mind raced. Was it taunting him, or was there a shred of truth woven into its words? "Shut up," Victor said, a surge of anger mixed with fear. He had no time for games. He scrambled to get the letter back in the trunk, crumpling it slightly in his haste. In this moment, their history felt like a noose tightening around his neck. Tessa tugged at him, but he could feel the pulse of dark forces pushing in from every side. "We need to go." Elena yelled again, eyes darting to the door, but none of them could take a step back without feeling the weight of destiny pulsing in the air. It was as if the ground beneath them was alive, waiting and watching, whispering their fate. Sacrifice. The figure's voice danced like a flame in the wind, not losing an ounce of power. "It's not what you think. It's not just blood, it's a promise, a choice that changes everything." Victor's eyes darted to Tessa and Elena. What choice were they being asked to make? The air was electric, a cocktail of fear and confusion swirling through the room. The past loomed behind them like a monster with sharp teeth, hungry for acknowledgement, desperate for payment. "What do you want?" Victor shouted, desperation boiling over. "What do you know about my family?" The figure took a slow step forward, illuminating the room with a sickly glow that made Victor's skin crawl. "Your family was built on shadows and lies, Victor. They owed a debt that has not yet been paid." "Enough!" Elena shouted, stepping forward now, fierce and unyielding. "You can't keep us here. We're not afraid of you." The figure's laughter cascaded over them, swirling into echoes that filled the room. It leaned closer, its eyes narrowing. "Fear is one thing, but ignorance is a death sentence," it hissed. "And your ignorance will cost you dearly." With a sudden motion, it reached out, fingers curling, and the very air thickened like molasses. Victor could feel the pull of something dark reaching for his very essence, as if it wanted to pull him into its depths. "No!" he yelled, breaking the fierce grip just enough to take a step back. "I won't let you. I refuse." But the shadows writhed, looking for cracks in his resolve, hungry to break him down. He could feel it like a cold whisper in his ears that the moment was coming when he would have to confront everything he'd always run from. "Elena, Tessa!" Victor cried, drawing them closer. "If we stand together, maybe." With a deafening crash, the trunk slammed shut once more. The dust cloud erupted, swirling around them, and a piercing cry rang through the air. Voices from the past took form, accusing and pleading, ghosts of betrayals long buried. Doubt clawed at Victor's heart. Was there a way out? Were they even ready for the truth waiting beyond those letters, hovering like a specter just out of reach? "Victor, we need to move. Now!" Tessa shouted over the cacophony, fear igniting urgency in her voice. A glance at the figure told him it wasn't finished, the anticipation almost palpable. "Make your choice, Victor," it beckoned, the shadows flickering like flames behind it. "What are you willing to sacrifice?" In that moment, Victor realized the answer could change everything. But as he opened his mouth to respond, the walls began to shudder, as if the very place was alive and awakening, echoing with ancient rage. Would they defy destiny, or surrender to the shadows? The ground trembled beneath them like the heartbeat of something unborn, a silent drumroll leading them toward an inevitable showdown. "Run!" Elena shouted, taking the first step toward the doorway as the figure lunged, darkness spilling forth like ink in water. Whatever lay ahead would require every ounce of their courage and perhaps the uncovering of a secret long hidden. But just before they could escape, time stood still, and the figure laughed. "You can't run from the past, Victor. It waits for you just beyond that door." The choice was about to become more than just survival. It was about redefining everything they thought they knew, what awaited them on the other side of fate. Elena's scream sliced through the chaos as the shadows poured from the figure, cascading like a dark river determined to sweep them away. She bolted toward the door, her feet pounding on the cold stone floor, the urgency of the moment igniting every instinct in her body. But the figure's laugh echoed around them, warping the shadows around the room into sinister shapes, clawing at her sanity. "Don't look back!" Victor shouted as he wrestled with uncertainty, his heart thundering. Tessa clutched his arm, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and resolve. "Victor, we can't face that thing." He could feel the weight of the choice pressing down on him, but in that instant, he understood there was no escape without confronting the truth that had haunted his family for generations. The whispers of regret enveloping him felt like chains, heavy and unyielding. "Maybe it's answering our questions," he said, forcing the words out. "Maybe we can find out what debt my family owes. We need to get that letter." He realized how ridiculous that sounded, but the need for answers pulled at him like a moth to a flame. "Are you insane?" Tessa gasped, her grip tightening. "That thing will kill us." "No. It needs something first." Victor clenched his fists, a surge of adrenaline coursing through him. "It wants a sacrifice." The figure's smirk widened, shadows swirling like smoke around its limbs. "Ah, so smart." It taunted, its voice a melodic taunt. "You're beginning to understand the weight of your legacy. But know this, your choice has dire consequences." Elena steadied herself, fear mixing with a determination that fueled her voice. "We won't let you control us. We'll face whatever truth you wield, but we refuse to let you claim us." Victor nodded, feeling the unity between them. A spark ignited, pushing back against the figure's menacing presence. "Together," he said firmly. "Together," echoed Tessa and Elena in unison. With a fierce roar, the shadows lunged forward. Victor felt the air shift, and suddenly they were all rushing toward the door. The walls shook violently, the very stones screaming as he pulled Tessa and Elena along behind him. They crashed through the doorway, stumbling into a narrow hallway shrouded in darkness. Panting, they skidded to a halt, their breaths echoing in the tension-soaked silence. But before they could gather their bearings, the figure emerged from the shadows behind them, a blackness that twisted and turned like a living nightmare. The door slammed shut, sealing them in this narrow passage, cut off from the horrors left behind. "What do we do now?" Tessa asked, her voice trembling. The fear of the unknown laced through her words, each syllable sharp with panic. "Search for the answer," Victor exclaimed. "We need to find out what they owe. It has to be here." As they moved cautiously down the hall, a glimmer caught Victor's eye at the far end. A beam of light slipped through a gap in another door. He gestured to Elena and Tessa, and they hurried towards it, hope mingling with the lingering dread. "Victor! Wait!" Elena pulled back on his sleeve. But it was too late. He pushed the door open. What lay on the other side took his breath away. The room was filled with ancient relics, each one glowing faintly with a cold luminescence. Papers flew through the air as if caught in a storm, and at the center of it all a slick, black tome rested on a pedestal, pulsing faintly. Victor's heart raced. That book felt alive, sentient as if it had waited eons for someone to discover it. "It's just a book?" Tessa whispered, her voice wavering. "Open it," Elena urged, stepping closer, distrust mingling with curiosity. Victor reached for the tome. Just as his fingers grazed its cover, a shudder rippled through the room. The whispers intensified, a cacophony of voices blurring into each other, clamoring for attention. He lifted the cover and the world around them shattered like glass. The shadows quaked, and the walls pulsed, echoing a sentiment of something horrific, like they were awakening a dark secret, one that might finally tell them everything about the debt his family owed. "Victor," Tessa said, fear softening her voice. A blinding burst of light erupted from the tome, and Victor's vision clouded. What had they unleashed? Would they discover the truth, confront the past? Or would they be consumed by the very darkness they sought to dissolve? As the light soared, a chilling voice echoed through the storm, "Now you must suffer the price of knowledge. Will you pay it?" Panic surged. Was there a way back? Did they have the power to change their fate, or was it already sealed? The light enveloped them, warping their sense of reality. Memories flooded in like water, images of happiness and pain crisscrossing through the kaleidoscope of Victor's past. Faces he recognized, faces he'd forgotten. They spun from joy to sorrow, weaving a tragic tapestry of his family's legacy. It was a storm, ferocious and relentless, as the shadows clawed at the edges. "Stay together!" Victor yelled, his voice breaking through the chaos. He squeezed Tessa's hand and glanced at Elena, who stood firm, defiance radiating from her like a shield. The glowing tome pulsed erratically, a heartbeat echoing through their enclosed space, demanding to be recognized. "Make it stop!" Tessa gasped, panic rising as the voices shrieked louder, drowning out their thoughts. "We will never understand it all." She looked around, eyes wild, almost desperate. Victor stepped forward, grounding himself, his resolve igniting. "We have to face it. We can't hide from our past any longer." He took a deep breath, praying they could control the chaos that roared around them. "Whatever it is, we can handle it together." With those words, he focused on the glowing tome, the source of their torment but also their potential salvation. "Show us," he commanded, voice steady and fierce. "Show us the truth." The aura around the book darkened, the energy preceding a shuddering ripple. What came next was a deluge of memory scenes from Victor's childhood, family gatherings filled with laughter but overshadowed by whispers, shadows lurking just outside the flickering lamplight. "Your ancestors bound themselves to darkness, Victor," a familiar voice echoed from the tome, a voice richer than any echoing shadow, bearing weight and consequence. "They turned their backs on their debts, believing they could buy their way to safety. But every omission knows its return." Images flashed violently, a scene of betrayal, accusations flaring, unshed tears mingling with anger. Victor's chest tightened. These were his parents. "You didn't just inherit their wealth, Victor. You inherited their sins. And their payment is due. Now." The shadows writhed closer, and from the depth of the chaos, figures coalesced, familiar figures. Family members from the past, eyes hollow, spirits made of regret. "The only way to save yourself is to atone for their sins," they whispered in unison. Victor felt a wave of recognition wash over him, rippling through his very core. "I can't just pay their debts. I am not them." The tears stung at the corners of his eyes as rage battled with despair. Tessa squeezed his hand tighter. "You must," the whisper grew louder, resonating their desperate plea. "Whoever or whatever haunts you, it will never stop unless you confront it. You are the one who can end this cycle." Elena stepped forward, voice steady amidst the turmoil, her courage a flickering flame. "Then let me help you, Victor. We'll confront the past together." Her eyes shone with unwavering determination. Victor turned to her, and then to Tessa, who nodded slowly, understanding blooming in her gaze. "Together," Victor echoed, stepping toward the tome, grounding himself once more. "I will confront my past. I will take responsibility for this family." He felt a rush of raw power surge through him, pushing against the darkness swirling just beyond the memories. "Show me what I need to do." The room trembled, the lights pulsing violently, threatening to consume them, and Victor held steady, ready to bear whatever weight came next. Suddenly, bright beams of light shot out of the tome, illuminating every corner of the shadowy chamber, forcing the memories to coalesce into a singular vision, a debt written in blood and betrayal, a choice that had led generations astray. In the heart of that vision, Victor saw a path, a way to repay the debts. It was there, lingering on the edge, shimmering just out of reach. He could feel it. "Together. We walk this path together," Tessa shouted, her voice lifting above the still raging winds. Elena echoed her, taking Victor's other hand. "We must forgive not just our forebears, but each other. That's how we break this cycle." With every heartbeat, Victor could feel hope weaving back into his chest, igniting his resolve brighter than the shadow's dark intent. "Forgiveness is our weapon, and unity is our strength. I reclaim my family today." The force of their determination sent the shadows reeling. The voices, once howling like banshees, began to soften, morphing into a faint whisper, a plea for understanding rather than vengeance. The light emanating from the tome brightened until it became blinding, and in that white-hot glow, Victor felt a final push, a release. Darkness streamed away like smoke blown by the wind, leaving behind only clarity, the truths imbued with love and loss, pain and hope. It was done. As the last shadows released their grip, the room fell silent, now vibrant with possibilities. Victor, Tessa, and Elena stood together, trembling yet victorious. "We did it," Tessa breathed, the light in her eyes flickering with promise. "We faced it all." Victor looked around the now serene room, the relics that once bore witness to their struggles now silent, waiting only for a new chapter. He felt lighter, freer, unshackled from the weight of a past that could not hold him anymore. Elena smiled softly, knowing they had just rewritten what their families had meant for them with their unbreakable bond. "From this darkness, we rise," Victor whispered, claiming his truth. "Together." With that, they turned together, hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next in the light of their shared resolve. As they walked into the future, for the first time, Victor felt the heaviness of expectation lift. The choices that weighed on him now transformed into the promise of freedom. And what is a legacy, if not the choice to forge a new path, one based on love and understanding? They stepped into that new dawn, fists raised against the shadows that used to claim them, empowered by unity and ready to rewrite their destinies. The end now, if you want to keep enjoying exclusive stories like this, you need to subscribe immediately. This is the moment to show your support, so smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. And don't forget to flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. It's time to share your thoughts with us. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This community deserves to grow together, and only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.